I'm Zach Mudden, and today I'm going to walk you through my personal lineup of Waka Kayaks. My dad, Kenny Mudden, has been designing kayaks since way before I was born, and I've been paddling his design since pretty much day one with a few different boats as I grew up on the river. I have a lot of fond memories of Dad shaping kayaks out the back of my house in the garage, sometimes with a chainsaw, cutting up foam blocks. I think that was when he started designing the Tuna 1, and sometimes even joining him for a bit of healthy child labour. But yeah, now cut to 2023, Waka's been around for 10 years or so, and we've got quite a few different boats in our lineup now, so I'm going to try to touch on a few that I use and what I'd like to use them for. So I weigh around 74 kilos normally.
Is that true?
It's true most of the time. 74 kilos in season, 160 pounds for you Americans, and in my personal lineup, I switch between what's here, like a Stoke, puffy Steeze, sometimes a Steeze, OG, and for racing, I still use the Gangsta. I like to use my seat in the middle position, but it's worth playing around with because some people do prefer it in a different position. But to me, when it's on the middle, it's just more balanced, and I'm able to use the whole boat by just leaning forward or back and getting on the front of the boat, getting on the back of the boat. But it is worth playing around with.
Move me! You don't quit like that, you'll pop some more shit. So just sit back and take my legs off my jack, said I kick you like that.
Starting with the latest Waka Kayaks design, the Waka Stoke. It's as if the Waka Steeze and OG got together, had a bit of lovemaking, and made this thing. It skips really fast. I think that's the main thing about this kayak, is it's really fast kayak, but it still has a lot of maneuverability and that ease of being able to boost, so you can still feel confident. It comes in at 273 centimeters long, around 9 foot, 67.5 centimeters wide, around 26 inches. It's a bit slimmer around the knees here than the rest of the Waka lineup, which allows for a bit more of a vertical paddle stroke, and it should be a bit easier to roll, although I've never really noticed that. It was super interesting being involved in testing the prototypes and watching Dad's thought process as he designed this kayak. It really made clear to me the trade-off between speed and easiness to paddle. If you edge towards more speed, the boats often become harder to paddle, and if you edge towards something that's more easy to paddle, often that means a bit more rocker and it's a slower boat to paddle. Oh yeah. Pretty nice prototype, not bad. And the final production kayak, it really surprised both of us, I think, of how fast it was to paddle, but it still was really easy to control and maneuver. When I first got this thing, I was paddling in some low volume rivers in Balsasia, and it was so fun to be able to link up moves out of drops and use all the river and the laterals to skip and just carry a lot more speed than what I was used to. And along with that, it's got a bit more volume in the tail compared to a puffy Steeze. Obviously, it's pretty much a full-blown creek boat, which gave me a bit more forgiveness in the big whitewater. So when I came up to Norway this year, I paddled it a lot just because I felt safer in places where I didn't want my tail to go under the water before a big waterfall or something like that. It does have the same characteristics as all the other boats in the Waka lineup. As you can see, the hull looks pretty similar. Nice edges, flat bottom, release hull, but it is just a lot more dynamic than most of the other kayaks in the lineup. So yeah, that's the Waka Stoke, and that's why I like it. The Waka OG. So when I'm paddling the OG and I get scared and then I see someone else just route through a hole that I'm a bit scared about, I'm not scared anymore. It's like so easy to paddle. It's designed to be one of the safest and easiest kayaks to paddle for all levels, I think. It's got a lot of rocker allowing you to keep your face dry. Bit shorter, so it's easier to manage in tight situations. It's still a fun boat though, with a planing hull that skips, it releases on a wave and even flat spins, and you can shoot around and use all the water currents and features on the river. Comes in at 263 centimeters long and 69 centimeters wide. Sorry Americans, I do not know the measurements in feet. I really want to touch on the width of the OG. The width of the OG is what makes this boat so easy to paddle, so loose and so light on the water. If you've never paddled boats like this before with a wide flat hull, it can be a little tricky to get used to and might take a bit of adjustment, but the benefits and the fun that you can have is way more than in a traditional narrow boat, I think. Wide flat hull boats can be weird to get used to, and maybe even a different way of paddling altogether. I find I put a lot of edge on and carve around on all the different currents and features, but when I need to make a radical change of direction, I can just keep it flat and spin around on the flat of the hull, which can get you out of trouble and get you back online. The benefits and the fun you can have is way more again than in a traditional narrow boat, and I really think it's worth giving it a try and giving it a bit of time. Lately, my mentality on this boat was just to use it for really, really, really big whitewater. But whenever I jump into it, I feel really good and it's fun to feel good. So maybe I should be paddling it a bit more often. I'd like to break it out a bit more on the Vallebrooker and whip around in it. It's so fun to use all the features and still skips really well. So it's a fun boat to paddle. Really good all-round kayak, I would say. The Waka Steeze, or the Waka Puffy Steeze. This boat is probably my favorite boat ever designed. It's such a unique way of paddling, and it just opens up a whole new spectrum of how you can paddle. The main difference on a Steeze or a Puffy Steeze compared to any other boat is its own sort of hybrid between a half slice boat and a standard creek boat. It offers a lot more forgiveness than a half slice kayak. It's definitely harder to sink the tail and go vertical and play around with, so that's not its strength, but its strength is that you can paddle it like a creek boat, but you can manipulate the tail to make boofing easier or change direction just by little hip movements. I've paddled this boat so much over the years. In 2022, I pretty much only paddled the Puffy Steeze, and I was paddling some of the biggest whitewater I've ever paddled in my life, and I felt completely at home in it. It's 274 centimeters long and 68 centimeters wide. You'll feel like you're floating really high, and it's just so loose on the water like an OG, but it does offer a bit more speed. I think I've got enough there to say about the Waka Steeze, but I love this kayak, it's so sick.
Yeah, Zach, it's the son of one of our sponsors, Waka Kayaks, legendary boat designer Kenny Mutton, designing kayaks since the 90s. I paddled his first, lining up out of the staircase into the gun barrels, gliding across the pool, amazingly quick, into the wall of water. Wow,
And
this
that
is
is
a fast
looking
time.
good.
So fast. Boys train at the Kaituna every morning. They have lots of secret morning races where they go head to head. You know, he's a protege of Sam Sutton. There he goes into the slot.
Another part of the Mutton legacy. Zach Mutton lives in O'Carey Falls, New Zealand, and he's been paddling ever since he's a young buck every day on that river.
Oh, 129.04.
Amazing job, that
0.69
was.
of a second. Fast.
So this is the Waka Gangsta. I just wanted to touch on it quickly. This is the kayak that I use for racing. I don't use it for much else. That is because it's sacrificed a lot of its ease of paddling and maneuverability for speed. So it goes really fast when you hit the lines, but it's hard to hit the lines. My idea of why I paddle it in races is because people do choose to race this, and if they hit the lines, it's really hard to beat them if you're in another kayak. That being said, there is a line, I think, where the rivers get too tricky or so big that it might be easier to hit the lines in, say, another kayak like the Waka Stoke, and the easier it is to hit the lines, theoretically you're going to make less mistakes and it could probably be faster. Lately, I've just been racing the Gangsta though, and it served me pretty well this season. So yeah, that's the Waka Gangsta. I don't paddle it really for anything but racing, but when I do paddle it, it's really fun. It's fun to go fast, and that's what it's meant for. I hate trying to sell things, but these kayaks are really good and I do really like them. I think you can unlock a lot of potential with this lineup and they are a lot of fun. I hope you get the chance to paddle one of these designs and see for yourself, if not all of them. And yeah, keep in mind my starving little brother, he needs to be fed, so please buy a Waka kayak. I don't know. Not that I need to beg you, but they're pretty good.